Hello friends, it's Lisa and I'm back today with the July Crafter's Companion subscription box. If you remember, just 2 weeks ago I think, I did the June Crafter's Companion box, which is the first one. This is subscription box numero dos. This is the second one they've ever created, and this one is all about their Spectrum Noir Sparkle Markers, I think is their official title. Sometimes the Crafter Companion names can be a little bit of tongue twisters. Yeah, sparkle markers. So, I really like Crafter's Companion, but sometimes their names can be a little confusing. Anyway, here I'm showing you what's in the box. This box is smaller than last month's, but there is a jam-packed ton of stuff in this one as well. So you get 3 markers, 24 envelopes, and card bases. And the card bases are watercolor cards. Then you get, I think, 24 of these card toppers. For 2 of them, 2 of the blank ones. So there's this set, which is printed on there, but it doesn't move around with water, so you don't have to worry about the ink moving around with water. Then it comes with also a bunch more blank ones, and a few that are basically heat embossed already. See, that small pack that I'm opening up now has some that are heat embossed. So some of the blank ones I cut in half, so I had 1 or 2 left over. Now, as I started this, here you're seeing me picking out a few cards that I'm going to do on screen. I end up going through and heat embossing all of the stamps and all of the words before I even start. I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. So I did that one night. You also get the colored card layers, which basically are in between the card base size and the card topper size, so it's basically a layering. Making these really easy. They're actually kind of small cards. I want to say 3 inches to 3.5 inches by 3 to 3.5 inches. They're square, so I didn't measure it exactly. And so here, that I believe is everything. You see the stamp set. I'll show you a little bit in closer detail. Oh, there also are some small watercolor pieces that you can stamp the sentiments on. You'll see that in a minute. Here is the stamp set, and it's really fun. It has a lot of open designs, which are nice for these Spectrum Noir sparkle markers. Then you can color it in and let the markers shine. Those are the paper strips. Now, to use the Spectrum Noir sparkle markers, you have to take off the ring, twist it back on. Sometimes you have to take the cap off and finish twisting, shake it up, and then press. You see where it says push? You press that a few times and it starts flowing. One thing you'll notice is if you're using the marker a lot, you're going to have to shake and then press again. So the moonlight, I had to do that a bunch of times because the yellow I just used a lot of. Now I'm going to show you that piece of paper up close, and I'm just going to show you the top, which is the English section, so that you can see it. It does come in, I don't know, I think French, Spanish, and some other language, but I can only read English. So here it is. Remove the yellow retainer ring, twist nib section clockwise to engage cartridge, replace cap, shake well. Go back and pause it if you're interested. I'm taking out my Tim Holtz stamping platform, and I'm going to just stamp two or three of each of the big images on here. I said that wrong. So I'm going to stamp one of the big images on each of these card toppers, and I'm going to end up with 2 or 3 of each design. This first one is the flowers, and I ended up stamping it twice on each card. So you'll see I play around with it a little bit. I end up putting it, lining it up to that little edge and just stamping it twice. So it was, then it looked good. So I got double the stampy goodness on there. I might have taken a little bit more time if I did this again, but it turned out really cute. All the cards, there were 3 or 4 that I wasn't super enamored with, but I made probably 20 or 22 cards that look really good. I'm excited to share with everybody. So here I am. I've stamped them in embossing powder, which is, I use Versamark embossing powder. Crafter's Companion just came out with a new embossing ink pad. They came out with a bunch of ink pads. More on that later. I don't have the embossing ink pad and I haven't bought it because I have the Versamark and I'm happy with that. I also use the Ranger clear embossing powder. So my embossing, the ink pad, the embossing powder, the embossing anti-static bag that you see me rub on the paper, my heat gun, my scissors, and adhesive are the only things I used on any of my cards that didn't come in the card kit. The one other thing I would think about adding would be some embellishments. If you had some really cute jewels or something you could use, it would be cute, that matched. That was one thing that wasn't included in the box that they had last time. So if you wanted to, you could always add those from your stash and they'd be really cute. You could also totally use everything else from your stash, but I wanted to really focus on what I used here. So here I'm going to show you heating it. I'm using my heat gun from Wagner, and just really quick, one thing, at this point I heat embossed all the card toppers, and I was stupid and didn't get up and go get my tweezers because these are pretty small card toppers and I burned my fingertips a bit because that heat gun's hot. Even though it takes no time, that thing gets hot. So when I did my sentiments, I got the tweezers because my fingers can handle that. And this heat gun stands upright where the heating end shoots up to the ceiling. So most of the time it's just on my desk standing like that. So I just turned it on because that's what I do is I turn it on for 30 seconds to let it heat up and I do other things. But I turned it on and just held those little pieces of paper bottom side down, so bottom side to the heat, so it's heating it through the paper, and just heated them that way. So you don't see it, that's why I wanted to let you know that's how I did it, but that's what I did. So I picked those 4 sentiments, the big ones, the hello, love, thanks, you're so sweet, and decided I would just do an even number of each of them because I didn't have a plan for any of these. There was 0 plan. I had no plan going in. Usually I make good stuff when I have a plan. I would suggest having a plan, but for things like this, where everything's included and it's gonna look good, you don't have to have as much of a plan. My plan was to use the stuff in the box, and that plan worked. So, if you remember, on the card toppers, I used clear embossing powder. Here, I'm going to use the white embossing powder. If I did this again, I would have used the white for both. But here we are, too late now. They still look good anyway. So I'm going to heat emboss the hello I forget how many times. I think 6. Then I'll heat emboss the other ones. I did, but I just did same thing there. So, the first one I'm going to show you is this cute daffodil, I want to say. Here I am trying to get this going. I felt like the yellow didn't flow out as easily as the blue and the red, but it could have just been I just didn't press enough. But sometimes when I press too hard, then I get it spills, and I don't know. I don't know that I've mastered these pens. If you have any masterful tips, let me know in the comments below. But I decided to use my water brush. Oh, that was one other tool that I used, not included in my earlier tools I used outside of the subscription box. But I'm using my Arteza water brush, which I really enjoy, and just pulling that color out. Since I'm not using any other painting mediums or any other sparkle markers, I have a few. The darkest color I was going to get was straight out of the tube or out of the marker, so I'm using the water to pull that color out and get mid and light tones. Now, they gave me a red, blue, and a yellow, which they gave everybody the same colors. And I think it's because they're primaries. That way you can blend them together and get cool stuff. So here I am blending just a little bit of the blue into the yellow and getting a green. Now I'm going to go through and add just a light background, a sky, if you will. It was really quick. Here I'm speeding it up so you don't have to quite watch me go through every detail. I tend to go a little slower when I'm watercoloring, but I find it very soothing and relaxing, so I don't mind. I get it in my zen place. I flow, if that's what you want to call it. Anyway, so when I took off my masking tape, which this was the only one I actually used masking tape on, the watercolor card was so thick that it didn't really warp. So that was really nice. Very high quality papers. And as I went through, sometimes for every card, I went ahead and picked one of the sentiment strips and colored it for that card. So you'll see I color them different ways. Oh, I guess I did have one more that I taped down, but I stopped doing that soon. This is probably one of my least favorite cards. I put the pictures in at the end of all the cards I made, and there is one that I did is very loosey-goosey watercoloring, and it turned out amazing. So I'm definitely going to have to do that again. But this one, since there was only 3 colors, it made it hard to make a really cute kind of card, and I tried to do all the colors and do kind of a rainbow. I don't know. It didn't work as well. But you can see that the markers work really well. My color choice is what was kind of iffy. So here I am adding some purple. The purple combo that you get from the red and the blue wasn't my favorite, but they have some really pretty purple sparkle markers. So don't feel like you can't get a really cool purple from the sparkle markers. They came with the primaries, so you really only need 3 markers, but do you really? Can you ever just stop at 3? If you can, you have more willpower than I, friend, and I'm a little jealous. So, I am just coloring it in. I'm doing a very light shading. Excuse me. Nothing spectacular. You'll see on that bottom mug, it's the darker side is the left side. The top cup has a little shading at the bottom. Just all in all, a simple card. I did feel like it was hard to tell kind of what was going on. There needed to be a background on this. I do add a bit of shading there at the bottom, and that helps quite a bit. But overall, this one was just okay. And that was more me than anything. I did think that my shadow turned out pretty cool because I even added the little handle. Anyway, here is kind of where I just gave up on the masking tape. I didn't need it. If you're adding a ton of water, maybe you do, but with the amount of water I was adding, I didn't feel like I did. So here's where I add the background, which is just a little bit of yellow to kind of highlight it, make the cup stand out from the background. If I'd done the heat embossing with white, it would have stood out a little bit more. You can just see all the colors together didn't work super wonderfully. But I do pick up some of the leftover color and then add in a little bit of the red, watercolor that out. One thing you're not picking up on in the video is the sparkly factor of these. I tried to get that in the photos. I'm not sure it really came out. When you see the sparkliness of this one, you'd be like amazed. Here is where I did the tulip flowers. I ended up just stamping 2 on there. And it worked out really well because I just cut it in half and used them on different ones. When I was doing the green, I found that adding the blue, just a hint of the blue on top of the yellow, worked best. The blue will overtake the yellow easily. The blue and the red are more even, but the blue will overtake the yellow. So you have to be careful and add just a hint of blue into the yellow to make a green. I decided to add the blue and the yellow on this background piece. I felt like it'd be a good background to the whole thing. So, in between some things I heat dry it, some things I just let to dry. Just really what I was feeling like at the time. I decided to fussy cut this out. I think if you had a cute little die, you could have just cut it out, but I did not feel like going through my stash and finding something. I just wanted to have fun and not go wild and crazy. When I went and did my other 19 cards, I put them through my Xyron machine. I put the colored pieces of paper and the card toppers and my little sentiment sheets and just put them all through the Xyron, and that worked so much better than using this tape. I really like that tape. It's very strong adhesive, but it's such a freaking pain to work with. I don't know if anybody else has that issue, but it is not. You have to put it on, you can't tear it, you have to get your fingernail under there and then it pokes you under your fingernail. Oh, it's just such a pain. So I have bought an adhesive runner from Xyron that I'm going to try out. I'm excited. I really like Xyron adhesive. When it goes putting it through the sticker maker machines, I have the large one and the 2.5-inch one, and I like both of them a whole lot. So I'm just sticking this card together. You can see how fast these cards go together, and they're such fun, simple cards. When you give them to somebody, I don't think I'll feel bad won't feel uncomfortable giving them to somebody. If I did do it again, I would have changed that love you to with love, because I can only give the love you cards to people who, like, I know well enough to give those to, you know what I'm saying? Like, can't go up to a coworker and be like, hey, love you. You know, that's just awkward. So, here on this one, on a lot of them, I did the little fishtail technique where you just cut that little fishtail and added it to the card. You'll see I didn't even get my paper trimmer out. My paper trimmer is large and I'm working on a small desk. Well, it's a very large desk, but it's filled up with crafting supplies, so I don't have a whole lot of space. Just put my paper trimmer out. When I get my new house, my plan is to have a kitchen table in my craft room where I can craft there. And I can have people over to craft with me, because that was one thing in my old craft room. I had a long, wonderful table that my brother built me specifically for the space, and it was amazing. Completely burned down, of course. And but when my mom and sister came over and we'd craft, and my niece, we were all crafting in different parts of the room. It wasn't as fun. So I'm going to get a big table where I can spread out when I'm alone, and I can have people over to enjoy crafting with me when I feel like it. Now this one, I'm just adding a little bit of blue and green, blue and yellow to make some green. It's more of a yellow green, but that worked really well. And I used that same yellow green on the thanks to kind of tie it in. I decided this one looked really good without a blue background, so I left that off and paired it with a pink card. You see, I don't think I even talked about that one. That one went so fast. I just simply blended the three colors together to make a rainbow. That was one of my favorite techniques to do with these three colors. So simple, such a big impact. One thing you will want to do is, once you've dried the stuff, to wipe it off the heat embossing, just so you don't get any spots on top of it. So I'm going to go through these first 5 cards are the ones that we created here on the video today. The next cards are the cards I created after that. All the cards I created total. So I had a ton of fun this month. I wasn't sure after last month if it was really for me. $25 is something I can spend on something else, right? But look at all those super fun, pretty cards. You can see I had almost nothing left. Other than the 3 markers in the stamp set, I had almost nothing left, which is what I want. Like, I don't want a whole bunch of extra stuff. So here are 3 of the ones I made. The one in the middle, it's not actually shaky. It just looks like that for some reason in the picture. Oh, the one on the right here with the teacups is the one I was talking about. Probably my favorite card. Now, this month on my YouTube is a watercolor extravaganza, so this subscription box works perfectly into that. If you're interested, check out my channel. I have a whole liquid watercolor review of all the different liquid watercolors going on right now. So check that out if you're interested. Check out some of the other Crafters Companions videos I have. Thank you so much for spending the time with me, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.